All right, so the next topic is sort of breaking news. Happened yesterday. So Alvin Kamara finally got his suspension from the NFL for the Vegas incident that happened at the Pro Bowl last year. So they gave him 3 games.
Okay.
Which I'm very relieved. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been 6. A lot of people were saying between that 2 and 3 range, but
for sure,
glad it's the first 3 games. So I think it's the Titans, the Panthers, and somebody else. But it's 3 games that we can win, and we got 2 good backups.
Oh,
Jamal
for sure.
Williams.
I think that's one of the best backfields in.
Yeah, I mean Jamal Williams and the rookie out of TCU, Kendre Miller. So
yeah,
I think we'll be fine for those 3 games.
Phenomenal. And
he'll come back strong. I think he's just looking at his interview. He took accountability, which I really respect from him.
For sure.
Like when he first got up to the press conference, he was like, "All right, we talking about this. I met with Roger Goodell, and we good or whatever." And then after that, the suspension came out. So shout out to Alvin Kamara. We're gonna miss you the first 3 games, but
for sure. But I mean, we still got a long season. I mean, I appreciate the accountability. I feel like we're living in I wouldn't say a society that doesn't have it, but it's put on the back burner. Everybody wants to place the blame now. So for him to be a man and really acknowledge what he did wrong was, that's big.
Yeah.
It's big. You got to lead out
with these type of things. If you're a leader, own up to your mistakes. That's how we all grow from them. We're not, none of us are better than anybody. But when it comes to the 3-game suspension, I feel like, do I think it's a fair one? Give or take, you can take your stance on it. I really don't care. The length is. Your actions have these consequences. It's still kind of shocking though that it's only 3 games as opposed to with I think it was Calvin Ridley with the sports betting and gambling. He took a season off. So I think it's some things were a little harsher than they needed to be. But I guess with like Calvin being the first offense of like something that they were setting in stone, they made example out of him. These type of situations have happened before. They set him down.
Violence is easy to
it's easy to defend. Like, hey, sit down. It's like putting your kids in timeout. But
that just goes to like how the NFL views things, which I think is really, kind of backwards. Because back to your Calvin Ridley point, and then all the other players that are getting suspended for sports gambling, they'd rather protect their image of being this honest league or whatever. Like the players are gambling, and it might be on the sport, but it's like their team. Like they're gambling on positive outcomes for their team.
Yeah.
All right, if you don't want them to gamble, give them a game or 2, fine them a bunch of money or whatever you need to do. But a year suspensions,
it's crazy.
They're crazy. But then a guy beats up somebody in a nightclub or beats their wife
games.
Rape. Like it's
But I mean, like Ray Rice was out the league after his situation.
Right.
But you know what I mean? And it's
right.
To me, you just have to be consistent with the stance. You can't. It's like judging sins as far as a religious aspect. It's like your sins are greater, these sins are greater. They're all weighed the same. Like I'm not saying let's go ahead and throw out everybody for a year, but I mean, I feel like we could have to do it like society. If you first time offense, we'll see. Then as you start stacking the incidents, all right, now let's do it.
Like I feel like they don't really have guidelines. I know they do, and they have like a kind of a set rule what they go by, but I feel like it's very arbitrary how they just select random games.
I
think what saved Alvin is that he met with Roger Goodell before it came down. So he met with him and said, hey, and he probably said a little bit of what he said on on the press conference yesterday. I own up to my mistake. It was a stupid decision. Yeah, it is what it is. And then instead of 6 games, they gave him 3. So
and I feel like it's based on star power as well.
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like with fan favorites, you're losing money in your product.
Right.
I'm not. We gonna leave it at that. I ain't trying to expose the NFL.
That's the point. That's my point. Like they'd rather with the gambling thing, they don't want people to think that it's rigged.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sit you down for a year versus people beat up other people every day. So
exactly,
games, and it's just like it's very inconsistent, and I feel like it's very random how they select. They pick and choose.
I definitely agree, but I feel like you can't really do nothing about it. They're just trying to put the best product on the field, and you can't do that with one of the best running backs in the league.
The best running back.
And I feel like he's the last of the Mohicans. He's the last one that got paid well.
Yeah.
I think he got, $70 million?
Yeah, him, CMC, and Derrick Henry.
That's it. 3. That's it. But, I mean, they produce. So, It's like when you have guys of that stature out, the NFL loses money.
Facts.
Especially if the team isn't good. But I'm not saying that's the reason for the shortened suspension. I'm just saying that these could be factors. Like, all right, that's why we're throwing games out. Like with Ray Rice, he was great, but the press for it was so bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have to do something. You know
and Alvin's, I mean, it hit TMZ, and it was kind of quiet for a minute. Like, nobody really talked about it.
Yeah.
And he kept it away from the team as much as possible and away from the media as much as possible. Like,
when you say
this was his first time speaking, period, in like a year and some change. So
yeah, and it's like when you saying it, it's different. You know,
like
it's a totally different. Yeah, it's a totally different like scenario.
Yeah,
and we're not saying that any of this is acceptable,
but it's when you're really thinking about it and it boils down to it. I feel like it's kind of star power. You got your favorites, class favorites.
That's true.
It's like that. But
you know, one take, and then we can kind of end it on here. But one take that I read on Twitter, which is now X.
That's weird.
But
trash.
From a Saints fan, it was saying that it's because Sean Payton is not there, and Roger Goodell hates Sean Payton. So if Sean Payton was still the Saints head coach, he would have got like 8 games.
I feel like that stems back to the Bounty Gate issue.
Oh, for sure.
Because you got to look at it like Brett Favre was the golden child. Like he was Tom Brady before Tom Brady of that generation. So it was like there was expectations for Brett to be great, but he didn't do it. It was very Aaron Rodgers-esque.
Yeah.
I think he one ring.
I think Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers are the same player.
I feel exactly the same way. I feel like they played the exact same way. I feel like Aaron is more mobile, but they have the same arm talent.
Yeah.
Which
all
is why
Aaron Rodgers got to do now is go to the Vikings after this.
I mean, it was a seamless transition. I feel like. I mean, at this point, they do have like
it's the same career, bro.
I think did Brett play for the Jets? If I remember correctly, it's wild. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
But I mean, I feel like he, I wouldn't say overstayed his welcome in Green Bay. He kind of shortened that. I think it's time.
That was on him. Yeah, it was just. I mean, Green Bay was trying to move on, and
he should have left years ago.
Yeah, well, they were kind of getting ready for him to retire, I think,
which is fair.
I mean, he didn't really agree with how Green Bay was kind of setting themselves up. So.
And I understand it. Like your legacy is on the line.
As an organization, what do you want me to do? Like,
I mean, is you gonna do what you can?
Just die, and then I gotta scramble to find a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, we get to the point of overstaying our welcome often. Like, when it's time to move on, just move on. Because, like, I'm not saying that it was an ugly breakup in Green Bay.
It was.
But they could have been better off by now. Like, Devontae left.
Yes.
You could have gone.
It was so overly dramatic.
Yeah, it's trash. Reason. Like, it's similar to the Derek Carr and Raiders situation.
Overly dramatic.
It's like, well, what are we doing?
So now he got a bigger chip on his shoulder, and now he's going to just overplay. I feel like that's what I'm afraid of.
Overconfidence.
Yeah, and then
your own abilities.
Exactly.
Just play your game. Play your game. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Stay tuned.